Ultra! I cannot believe this is happening. Hello everybody, DK Guillotine here, and I have been converted. I have been converted to a side that I never thought I would ever even have a chance of being converted to. I have become a My Hero Academia fan. This is a show, just to tell the story one more time for anybody who may not have heard this show, about this story with me in this show, because me and this show, we have a serious history. This show was getting hype about 2 years ago. A lot of hype. It was everywhere. People were walking around with shirts of it. I saw posters of it. Movies were coming out. People would never shut up about it. And I decided to finally go ahead and give it a try. It was back when I didn't really watch a lot of anime. I really only watched like a few here and there and never really wasn't really too much of like a turbo weeb at that point, especially not to the point I am now. But I watched like, I think 8 or 9 episodes. I got to the point where 13 gets kind of disintegrated during the USJ attack. I guess I should probably put spoilers out, but this is a ranking of the seasons of My Hero Academia, so yeah, there's spoilers in this, just saying. But I got to about that point, which I think was like episode 10-ish, and I totally dropped this show because I was so uninterested in it. I really just did not care about it at all. None of the characters were really any good to me at all, in my opinion. I really hated the main character big time, and I dropped this show harder than I've probably ever dropped any show in my life, and I never, ever expected to ever come back to it. I thought this was going to be one of those huge animes that I just never understood the hype with. And then a couple of weeks ago, I had a friend who loves My Hero Academia ask me make a deal with me where if he watches Danganronpa, which is my favorite anime of all time, that I would watch at least the second season of My Hero Academia. I've now seen the entire show and all the movies. Well, not all the movies. I haven't seen World Heroes Mission yet because I can't find out where to get it. Apparently it comes out on Blu-ray in like April, so I'm just gonna get it when it comes out on Blu-ray, and then I'll get to watch it. But yeah, I've seen the entire franchise, and I adore this show. This show would easily make my top 10 favorite anime of all time, and it might even overthrow my current favorite shonen anime of all time, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Might even become my new favorite shonen anime of all time, and I loved it from beginning to end. I've heard some people say that this show kind of has like its ups and downs, but I honestly could not disagree more. There was maybe like one little bit where I thought it was maybe a little bit weaker after the first like 7 or 8 episodes, but pretty much from the USJ attack to the end of the show, I was thoroughly in love with the show. Like, it's pretty amazing. And today, I'm going to rank the show. I'm going to rank all 5 seasons of My Hero Academia. Now, we're only going to be ranking the 5 seasons. We're not going to be talking about any of the movies, which is a shame because Heroes Rising was like an incredible fucking movie. I love that fucking movie. That is the Mugen Train of My Hero Academia. I'm just going to throw that out there. So yeah, I do kind of wish I could justify ranking the movies in here as well, but A, I haven't seen World Heroes Missions yet, and B, I don't really feel like it's fair to rank an hour-and-a-half long movie against like a 7-hour long season of television. So, well, actually it'd be more like 14 hours of television. So yeah, we're only gonna be ranking these seasons, and I'm gonna be ranking them from what I thought was the weakest to the best season overall. And yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing. I don't really want to waste any time. I feel like I've already wasted enough time telling you guys the story of my history with My Hero Academia and all that. It's finally time. Here it is, my ranking of every single season of My Hero Academia. Let's jump into it. Coming in at number 4, surprising absolutely nobody. Just keep in mind, guys, this is my opinion. If you love this season, if this is your favorite season, I don't mean any hate, but number 4 for me, so easily, is going to be Season 1. Season 1 was the only season of this show that I just did not really care for all that much until about the end part. I would say it's still a good season of anime, but the problem I have with this season is how slow of a start this show has and how much I fucking hated every single one of the characters in this first season because we don't have any time with them. Over the course of the show, I've never really seen a show grow characters better than this show, man. I pretty much loved every single character by the end of Season 5. I pretty much loved every single one of the characters, which is insane to me because there's literally like 70 billion characters in this show. So, yeah, character development is one thing this show did absolutely phenomenally, but as such, these characters in the first season of this show were absolutely insufferable to me. I did not like Izuku at all. I felt sorry for him for the fact that he didn't have a quirk. I understood that. I mean, yeah, it was very sad, but he was just not an interesting character, just not at all. He was just a really kind of annoying kid who seemed like he was just like, I don't even know what to say. He just was not interesting. He was just not a character I really gave any shit about. I just could not, for the life of me, find myself actually rooting for him at all. And then Bakugo, who was kind of the other main character, sucked so hard in the first season and really made it very difficult for me to ever even like Bakugo. They did manage to do it though. It kind of happened in season 3 at the end there, which you know which episode. But yeah, Bakugo had there was like I can't think of a single scene in season 1 where Bakugo was anything above F tier. Like, I really can't. I hated him so much. None of the other characters that I love now were really all that big either. Like, I really love Uraraka, I really love Jiro, I like Momo a lot, I like Ashido a lot. None of them really had any moments either in this first season. You know, pretty much you just have they have the setup where you're kind of with Deku getting his power from All Might, learning how to use it, failing miserably, finally goes into UA, which literally happens like 6 episodes in. We literally don't even get to the My Hero Academia until episode 6, for crying out loud. It's just so slow. It's no wonder, it does not shock me whatsoever why I dropped this show after watching like 8 episodes of it. And I've talked to a lot of people about it too. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they have all told me that yes, they think the first 8 episodes are really boring and a really difficult thing to get through, but once you get past those first 8 episodes, it's pretty much just like all uphill from there. And I 100% agree with that. Like 100% I do agree with that. But I still think these first 8 episodes are incredibly uninteresting and just kind of a slog to get through, honestly. Like, they really are not fun to watch at all. None of the characters are likable. I don't even really care for All Might all that much in the first 7 episodes. It is just not a very exciting start to this really amazing show that this show did become. However, I will say at the end of season 1, when you get the League of Villains attack on the USJ, you're introduced to Shigaraki, my favorite character of the entire show. It definitely takes a huge step up. Those last 3 episodes of season 1 are quite fucking epic. I really do like them. Everything with All Might versus the Nomu was really, really great. I like the whole villain's attack on the USJ is really great. I love how you kind of get like these standout moments with some of the characters. Like, one of my favorite characters, Kyoka Jiro, has some pretty great moments in that little USJ battle attack. Tsuyu Asui as well, who I also love. Froppy, I love her. And I thought she had some good moments in the USJ attack as well. Not a terrible season of anime by any means, but so easily, not even a contest, my least favorite season of the show. It's really, there's not any contest whatsoever. This is the only season of this show that would get below an A tier for me. So, number 5, is going to be season 1. Now, number 4, this one was a bit tricky for me. I went back and forth on this one a lot between 2 seasons, but I ended up going with number 4 being season 4. Yes, season 4. I really, really loved this entire season. However, I feel like this season had some episodes that weren't quite living up to the hype of what the season as a whole was living up to. I pretty much loved the entire festival arc. The festival arc is honestly probably in my top 3 favorite arcs. I love that one. The whole one where they're preparing for the festival. You have the gentle criminal character, who I'll admit, not the greatest villain, although we are talking about My Hero Academia, who literally has some of the greatest anime villains I have ever seen, period. So do keep that in mind. But I really love that arc because of how much it grew all the characters, and I loved the fact that that you get so much. Like, Jiro was a character that I kind of always liked in the beginning, but when you get to that festival arc, I really felt like Jiro get to an entire another level, and throughout the whole festival arc, you're building up to the performance, the class 1A performance, which I was really excited to see, especially, you know, when you see the scene where Jiro shows everybody her singing chops, and all the characters start, like, training for it and learning the dances and whatnot, and they're all gonna do that, like, the big performance, and Bakugo is like, we're gonna murder them with awesome music. He's like playing the drums. It was just a really fun setup, and I was really excited to get to the performance. And before you get to the performance, you obviously get the battle between, I really shouldn't be talking about the festival arc before I talk about the Shie Hisaikai arc, but fuck it, we're gonna finish talking about the festival arc, and then we'll talk about the Shie Hisaikai arc. But yeah, before you get to the actual performance, you do get the fight between Gentle Criminal and I forget her name, the little chick with the ponytails, with like the Junko ponytails. I forget her name, the little sidekick chick to the Gentle Criminal guy. That battle between him and Deku, that was worth the entire season, dude. Like, that was worth the entire character. Gentle Criminal was definitely not an amazing villain. He wasn't all that interesting. I didn't really care for his design all that much. But when you get that fight, that like 3-episode fight between him and Deku, Honestly, one of my favorite fights in the show. That fight was so awesome. I absolutely loved it, and you get the Deku kind of figuring out how to use the flick effect a little bit more effectively. And all that, and I just love that fight. I can't say it enough. I really love that fight. How you kind of get the fake out with him, like Gentle Criminal goes down, and then his little sidekick reveals her quirk, and it makes him like super powered. Then you get like a whole other episode of him fighting the super powered version, like the super ultra powered version of Gentle Criminal. Really fun stuff. I really like that arc, and then of course you cap it off with finally the performance of Class 1A, and I thought it absolutely slapped. I really loved the Class 1A performance done by the whole class, and Jiro on the microphone singing the song Hero 2. I really love that whole arc, honestly. The festival arc was a huge standout for me of the show, and I really did kind of want to put season 4 up a little higher because I love that arc so much. But here's the deal. The Shie Hassaikai arc. I really liked this arc. Don't get me wrong. I like this arc, and I think this might be a fan favorite arc because I've seen a lot of love for this arc. I do really like this arc. I think it has an awesome villain in Overhaul. I think Overhaul is such a great villain. I think he's scary. I think his quirk is overpowered as shit. Like, I think if I had to pick the most overpowered quirk in the entire show, it'd have to go to Overhaul, because my goodness gracious, that is ridiculous. But, yeah, and I liked the whole thing with the Shie Hassaikai, but the thing I did not like about the Shie Hassaikai is I didn't like all of these kind of slower episodes with them, where you kind of get, like, the Shie Hassaikai come in, Overhaul and the Shie Hassaikai come in, and they kind of give the middle finger to the League of Villains, who's by far my favorite group of villains in the show, and some of my favorite villains of all time. Like I said, Shigaraki is my favorite character of the entire show, and Toga and Dabi are not far behind. Both of them would probably make my top 10 as well. But you get the Shie Hassaikai, they come in, they kind of sideline the League of Villains, of course, but we get to the end, which I'll talk about. But yeah, you get that, and it kind of feels like they're giving like the middle finger to the villains that you already have been built up, that you already really like, but they are still really solid villains. But you don't get a ton of setup with the Shie Hassaikai. You're kind of you're given these little snippets of them. You find out their power, and then of course there's that scene where Mirio and Deku just run into Overhaul on the streets, and they're kind of just like chatting up with him, and they learn everything about him. And I just thought that was kind of lazy. Like, we really didn't have any build up to Overhaul as a villain. They kind of just run into him in the street, and there he is. There's the villain. Next episode, we're going to storm his castle, and that's going to be the next, 5 episodes. And those 5 episodes were really great. I do really like those 5 episodes where they storm the Shie Hassaikai building. They're chasing after Overhaul. And then the conclusion, the final fight between Deku and Eri versus Overhaul. One of the best fights of the show. Hands down. That shit was fucking epic. But I do feel like, aside from the Shie Hassaikai stuff, like them storming the castle, those 5 episodes, all the setup with them and the big 3, like Mirio, Toga, and the guy who could change his quirk based on what he eat, and then the spiral chick, I didn't really like any of those characters, to be honest. I think Mirio is solid enough to be a recurring character throughout the show. The other two, though, Amajiki was kind of fun. Now, that's his name, right? Amajiki, the guy with the quirk that could change when he eats stuff. He was kind of funny. I kind of liked how he was so insecure about himself, and every time someone started talking, he would just kind of face plant into the wall and just be like that. It was kind of a fun character, but I just feel like those episodes that were kind of building up the big 3, I'm just like, they brought these characters in and were supposed to be like, oh, these are the top level UA students, and honestly, I felt like none of them were anywhere near as interesting as the Class 1A, or even some of the Class 1Bs, who we'll talk about when we get to Season 5. But yeah, that was just my kind of issues with the first arc of Season 4, and that's why I'm going to put it down a little bit lower than I originally thought I was going to give this spot to Season 2. But after thinking about it a bit, I really felt like there was more downtime in Season 4 that I didn't like as much than in Season 2. I really felt like Season 2 was pretty much all good from beginning to end. Season 2 was all good. And Season 4 definitely had amazing moments, like the fight between the Shie Hassaikai and Class 1A is absolutely awesome, and all the pro heroes that come along with it as well is really fucking awesome. Everything with Eri, everything with Overhaul, and then that final scene at the end when Overhaul is getting rushed to the fucking hospital, and they get ambushed by the League of Villains, and Shigaraki chops both of his fucking arms off. Anybody who hates quirks so much shouldn't have a quirk at all, don't you agree? I fucking love that scene, dude. That scene was awesome when the ambulance is driving up, and then they see the big truck, and they see Shigaraki just like on top of it, and then the doors bust open, and it's Dabi, and he just blazes up the fucking ambulance, and they go out and they do that to fucking Overhaul. They just walk away, and he just starts screaming. God, that scene was awesome. That scene made the whole, like, sidelining the League of Villains thing totally worth it, because that was so fucking awesome. It's like, that season I was like, oh man, why are you doing this to the League of Villains? They're so great. I love those characters. Why are you giving us these characters? I do kind of like this guy, but why are you giving us these characters? And then they threw that scene in at the end, and I was like, oh, that's why. That was fucking awesome, dude. So yeah, I really did like the Shia Hasaikai arc. I love the festival arc, and that's why I'm going to put and I do love them both, but I really do feel like there was more downtime, more episodes that I wasn't as interested in when it comes to the Shia Hasaikai arc overall, and even some in the festival arc as well. Like, once again, the Gentle Criminal is probably easily the worst villain of this show. I could say that pretty safely, but that's just how I feel. I definitely feel like I'm doing the right thing here. I definitely feel like this is the right ranking for season 4. It's a really good season. The final fight between Deku and Overhaul is fucking legendary. I love the fact that, you know, you have the whole thing where Aries on his back and her quirk is going crazy, so Deku is literally at like 50 billion% power. So instead of him getting like ripped apart at the seams like All Might always said it would happen if he goes full power, Aries' quirk is like rewinding time at the same point, so he's literally unable to like blow himself up. That was such a fucking awesome fight, dude. I really do love that one. And yeah, I mean, overall, this season absolutely slapped. Don't get it twisted. But there were a few episodes in here that I was just kind of like a little bit uninterested in, and that's why I'm going to have to put season 4 a little bit lower for me personally. So there you go. That is number 4. Very long explanation, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew why I put season 4 lower than number 3, which for me is going to be season 2. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are probably surprised by this. I've seen a lot of people talk some shit on season 5, but I'm going to get to season 5. Season 3, though, I mean, not season 3. We'll talk. Season 3 is woof. Season 2, this is a really amazing season of the show, but I feel like this season... Here's the thing with this season. This season was good from beginning to end. It didn't really have any negative things whatsoever. You start off with the sports festival arc, which was really great. You get kind of the fights between some of the Class 1A. I love the one with Uraraka versus Bakugo. That was a huge standout. Todoroki versus Deku was awesome. Bakugo versus Todoroki was awesome. Shinso, one of my favorite characters, honestly. I love Shinso, but we'll talk about him more when we get to season 5. Really great. And then you go into the Stain arc, and then later on you get the final exam arc with the teachers versus the students. Now, this entire season, the sports festival, the Stain arc, and the final exam thing, they're all great. I love every single one of them. But in my opinion, they never really broke through the barrier that most of the seasons above this one actually did break. And to some extent, even season 4 broke. I felt like the final showdown between Deku and Overhaul was Hall of Fame level material. It was so amazing. And I don't feel like season 2 ever was able to break to that point like that fight in season 4 and some of the fights we get in the later seasons, especially in season 3. But I feel like it was like always like it was always like touching it. Like it had the barrier here, and season 2 was pretty much at this barrier for basically the entirety of the entire season. It was up here, and it was so close to being like that, and it did come very close with the fight between Bakugo, Deku, and All Might. I thought that was definitely the best part of the entire season. But it never did break that barrier for me personally. I feel like some of the things above that I'm going to talk about after I talk about season 2, I feel like they're better overall, and that's why I'm going to put season 2 as my number 3 instead of higher up. I still love this season, man. Like I said, huge standout moments. Bakugo versus Uraraka in the sports festival event. That was fucking awesome. Todoroki versus Deku. All the development you get with Todoroki. Didn't really care for Todoroki in season 1 as well. It's another character that everybody loved, that I heard a lot about, that was in season 1, and I was just like, I don't like this guy at all. And then you finally start understanding why people like him so much, because he is pretty great in season 2. The whole thing where he won't use his father's quirk because he's, halfway, and he's got the ice and the fire, and he won't use his father's quirk because his father's a douche, at least at that point in time. We'll talk about season 5. But seriously, I do love this season. This entire season, from beginning to end, is great. The Stain arc is also awesome and gives birth to so many great villains. Of course, without Stain, we wouldn't get Toga. We wouldn't get, I don't know, the lizard guy. There was a bunch of villains that came in that were inspired by Stain, and we wouldn't have gotten any of them if it wasn't for him. And I really felt like that was a good way of setting up those characters. And I also liked kind of the development we get with Shigaraki and the League of Villains in the Stain arc. The whole thing where Stain comes in kind of takes the attention attention away from the League of Villains for a minute, becomes like the central villain for a little bit there. And the League of Villains reactions, you kind of get Shigaraki being a man-child again, because we haven't quite reached the peak for Shigaraki. But it's still really, really good. You get the whole Nomu attack. You get actually some decent moments with Endeavor, which was definitely good to see, because I absolutely hated Endeavor. There was some cool moments with him in the Nomu attack on the city. But we'll talk about Season 5 again. We'll talk about Season 5, don't worry. But still, really, really good. Like, I like the Stain arc. I love the UA Sports Festival arc, and I love the Final Exam arc. The Final Exam arc, I definitely think, is the standout arc of this season. That shit was just amazing. Momo and Todoroki versus Aizawa, fucking legendary fight. I love that one. Let's see, what was the other ones? The Ectoplasm one, Suyu and Tokiomi against the Ectoplasm guy. That one was great. Uraraka and Aoyama versus who was it? Was it the astronaut chick with the black hole fingers? I liked that one a lot. But of course, the standout for that one, absolutely no questions asked, one of my favorite moments of the show, is Deku and Bakugo versus All Might. I think that one was just absolutely fucking legendary. Seriously, that one was so damn awesome. And that was the closest it got to breaking that barrier. But for me, it still just wasn't quite good enough to break that barrier that a lot of others did. It was so close though. But those are my thoughts on Season 2. I like Season 2 a lot. I also gotta say I like the openings a lot in Season 2. I think Season 2 might have the best openings. I thought both of them were pretty good, although I also really like the Season 5 openings as well. That's the only one that's probably in competition, I'm just gonna say that. But I like Season 2 a lot. Once again, whole season is pretty much great, but it just never quite became awesome like the other two that we're gonna talk about now. So, there you go. Number 3, Season 2. Coming in at the number 2 spot, and I mean, I'm a Shigaraki fan. Season 5, dude. Season 5, for me, okay, let's first talk about the first half of Season 5, because this is definitely not the standout of Season 5. The first half of Season 5, where you get the training arc between Class 1A and Class 1B, it's good. The whole arc is good, but once again, just like the entirety of Season 2, never broke that barrier. Never really actually met that barrier either for me. I didn't really feel like any of the fights in the first part of Season 5 between 1A and 1B, I never thought any of them actually did manage to get to that barrier. They were always kind of like here. Some of them were really good. I really liked everything with Nato Monoma. He was a character I always kind of liked. He was a character that I always kind of ironically liked because he was such a fucking asshole, but he was kind of an asshole to a point where he was kind of likable. And then when the show actually gave me some reasons to actually like Nato and built up his character more, that made me pretty happy. And that was probably the closest it came to getting to that barrier. But for me, it did never manage to breach it. It definitely has some good moments though. I love the opening. I think this might be my favorite opening. It's either this one or the Season 5 part 2 opening, merry-go-round. I really like both of these. What is this one called? Number 1, I believe. The first opening of Season 5, Number 1. Definitely in the running for my favorite opening. Yeah, this whole arc is good. Like I said, it's good. I like all the fights between Class A and Class B. They're all very, very, very good, very entertaining. I love everything with Shinso. I really liked Shinso when they first brought him in. I just think Shinso has a really cool design, man. His hair is just really fucking cool, and I love the fact that he has a brainwashing quirk. Like, his face matches his quirk so perfectly, and I really like his voice as well. I'll say this, I know people hate on people who for watching dubs, I really don't give a shit, but I'll say this, My Hero Academia has one of the best dubs I have ever heard. My goodness gracious, they put so much love into that dub, so many great voice actors in there, and pretty much every character matched their voice perfectly. The only one I think maybe could have been a little bit better was Himiko. I feel like Himiko's voice wasn't crazy enough, but still, I think the dub of My Hero Academia is absolutely exceptional. Like, I really do. Might be the best dub I've ever heard, honestly. So good. But, you know, it kind of makes sense because of how fucking popular it is in the US. Of course, it would get a much higher quality dub than a lot of other shows. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, I really like Shinso. I keep going on tangents here, I'm sorry. But yes, basically the entire Class 1A versus Class 1B arc is just good. I really like that arc overall. It's a lot of fun. But then we get the reason why this is so high up. Because yes, this whole arc is good. But if it was just this arc, yeah, it's just good. It's not really anything amazing. But then we get to the second half of Season 5. And this is where everything just got... This is probably my second favorite arc of an entire show. Well, not really arc, like halfway mark of the show. This second part of Season 5, in my opinion, was extraordinary. Like, absolutely insane. Like, nearly came to the level as what is number 1, which I mean, if you know the process of elimination, number 1 is obviously going to be Season 3. But the second half of season 5, you start off with the redemption arc of Endeavor, which I actually felt like was very well done. I never liked Endeavor throughout the entirety of like the first 3 seasons. I didn't like him at all. I like Patrick Seitz, but I did not like Endeavor at all. I cannot deny it. But this redemption arc that he goes on with his family when he becomes the #1 hero after All Might retires from the events of season 3, it was really, really well done in my opinion. I really liked his character in the first half of season 5 when you kind of get that redemption arc with Endeavor. Endeavor has taken Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki under his wing. He's learning they're in like the, what was that called? The like intern program that they were going on in like winter break or whatever. That whole thing, really, really cool. I really, really liked that whole thing. But where the second half became so amazing for me, because like, again, like talking about that barrier, the first half did kind of get up there. It was probably about here. It was really damn good. I really liked it. But then the second half of this second half, which is really complicated, the My Villain Academia arc, shot through that fucking barrier like it was nothing, dude. Broke that goddamn barrier in seconds. I love the villains of this show so much. I cannot say it enough. Most of the villains of this show I would put in my top 10. Shigaraki, my favorite character hands down. No questions asked. My absolute favorite character. I loved Shigaraki the entire way through. I loved him. Granted, it's mostly because I love his design so much. I think Shigaraki's design is so fucking inventive and unique and cool. I just love it. The idea of a character having a fucking mask that is a hand on their face, fucking brilliant, man. How that did not become a thing until My Hero Academia. Oh my goodness gracious, that is such a brilliant design for a villain, man. I love Shigaraki so much. I always loved Shigaraki. Even when he was a man-child in the first 2 seasons, I loved him. I thought he was so entertaining, and I loved his design so much. He was always my favorite character. Even though I thought Deku was so amazing, and Deku was my second favorite character, I always liked Shigaraki the most. He was always my boy. And then this fucking My Villain Academia arc comes in and is literally like, oh, you like Shigaraki? Let's just make Shigaraki the literal best character in this entire fucking show. By giving him an entire fucking arc where we do nothing but make you love him, and we give you this really tragic backstory that is so amazingly well done, and intercut it with this epic showdown between him and this more evil villain. Holy mother of God, dude. My Villain Academia, so close to being my favorite arc of the entire show. It was incredible. And not just everything with Shigaraki. Obviously, that's the standout. But the fight with Toga and the announcer chick, I forgot her, when she becomes Uraraka and uses her fucking quirk and like brings everybody in the air and then like fucking lets them go and they all just fall and you just see blood everywhere, dude. That fight was awesome. Everything with Twice was really, really great. Twice kind of realizing everything about the villains. Everything with Dabi was really cool. Dabi, and I forget that guy's name, the like winter coat guy, was all black and you could just see his eyes. That whole fight with Dabi was fucking awesome. They just took my favorite characters and made them even more lovable. Gave villains. Villains are never someone you really expect to ever really get that much of a role in. Well, not really that, not role. They have a huge role, obviously, but you never really expect, because in this arc, the villains are the main character. For these like 7 or what was it, like 5 or 6 episodes, the villains were your main character. Like Shigaraki was like the Deku for these 6 episodes, and it was just incredible. Every single one of the episodes of the My Villain Academia arc just absolutely slapped. I cannot say it enough. This is the reason season 5 is number 2 for me, because everything about it was masterful. And just talking about Shigaraki, because I just gotta talk about my boy Shigaraki. Oh my lord, dude, they literally took my favorite character and made him like the best character in the entire show. Shigaraki's origin story, when his origin story is explained, because you get that thing in season 3 with All For One, when he reveals that Shigaraki is the grandson of the previous holder of One For All. When he reveals that, and you're like, okay, well that kind of adds some layers to Shigaraki, but we still don't really know what's going on. And honestly, if before I had seen that origin story, I probably would have been like, I don't really want to know what's going on with Shigaraki. He's so creepy and so mysterious. I'm not sure I'd really want an origin story. But then we get the origin story, and it's literally, it might be my favorite episode of the entire show, except for episode 49. That's the only one that is competing with this episode for my favorite episode of the show. Shigaraki's origin story. Holy shit. It's brilliant, dude. The way it's intercut with him and the fight between Reed Destro as well is so absolutely fucking perfect. And his origin story, when he was a kid, he was abused by his father, and he didn't get his quirk until like very late into like when you're supposed to get get your quirk. And when he finally gets it and he accidentally kills his entire fucking family, dude, that shit was just, oh my god. Like, not only did I already absolutely love Shigaraki, and then they give me this amazing origin story for my favorite character, they make him so much more likable as well. Shigaraki is so, like, I don't even know how to put this into words, because Shigaraki is so clearly a very evil person. But Shigaraki commanding the League of Villains, he seems like such a nice guy. Like, do you ever realize how nice Shigaraki seems to the others? Like, he's like Toga is like behind him and is like kind of like supporting him, and he's like, I can always make room for my comrades. Or like someone's getting like destroyed and Shigaraki like actually looks like he's like worried about him. Like, his little league that he has created with Toga and Dabi and those other little villains, like the one with the hat that could like turn people into the little like Mega Mind dehydration ball guys. I forget. Compress. That was his name. Compress. And then the lizard guy as well. His little family that he made, it seemed like he actually cared about them. My god, how amazing was this fucking character, dude? I love Shigaraki. I cannot say it enough. Shigaraki was just show stealer character. And season 5, literally, like, he was already cemented as my favorite character, and then season 5 came in and literally just like, my love for this character is infinite, man. It was amazing. The second last little bit of season 5, the My Villain Academia arc, extraordinary. I have no other words for it. It is masterful. I love it so much, and that is why season 5 is my number 2. But as much as I love season 5, because I really, really do, the number 1 was so obvious. Number 1, season 3. There's no way. Season 3 was extraordinary, does not cut it. Season 3 was in a league of its own from almost any season of anime I have ever watched, period. Season 3, at least the first half of season 3. We'll talk about the second half, the provisional license arc. We'll talk about that one a little bit. Right now, I just want to talk about the first half of season 3, the All for One arc. Literal perfection. I cannot believe how masterful, how extraordinary, how outstanding the first, 12 episodes of season 3 were. You start off with the training. They go to this training, you're introduced to some pro heroes, the Wild Pussycats and all that. You get the little kid that is going at that Deku wants to help. We learn about the little kid, and we kind of get this built up thing, because Deku is following in the footsteps of All Might, and I like that they set up this little kid as kind of the first Deku fan, because there's the whole thing later on. He gets the shoes, he starts becoming how Deku always admired All Might. It's like that kid is becoming the new Deku, who is now admiring Deku. He is becoming his own version of that. And maybe, I don't know, they might be hinting that he's going to be the next successor after Deku, is out, I guess, after Deku's retired. So I really like that they set that up with that little kid. And all that first little bit, it's good setup. But once the League of Villains attacks the fucking training camp, you get this huge string of episodes of the villains going after each of the heroes individually in the training camp. You get this incredible fucking arc of the League of Villains versus Class 1A, and it is just amazing. Every single one of these episodes was outstanding, and I could not believe how good it was. Especially, I definitely think the biggest standout was the fight between Deku and Muscular. Seriously, that shit was legendary, and I didn't really think it could get better than that. And then episode 49 came, but we'll talk about that in just a second here. But we get this whole string of episodes of the training camp, the League of Villains attacking the training camp, which was just absolutely fucking awesome to watch. All of the individual fights, obviously Deku versus Muscular, but Aizawa versus Dabi is awesome. The poison gas guy versus Kendo, and I forget who the other character was that was in there. That was really awesome. Everything with Tokiomi, how his fucking shadow goes all berserk, and he starts just obliterating the forest as he's chasing after them, and then they take him to the one villain and he just absolutely annihilates him. That whole entire arc, the whole training camp arc, so awesome. But as if that wasn't enough, you literally get 5 episodes straight of peak shonen action, just awesomeness. And as soon as you're finished with that, they kidnap Bakugo, they take him in, and we lead in to the climax. I would say the peak of the entire show. we lead in to the real All For One arc. We're brought in, we get this whole thing where they've taken Bakugo hostage, they're trying to find him, they actually do find where he's being held, and they devise this incredible strategy with all the pros, with All Might, with Mount Lady, Kamui Woods, Best Genius, basically like all the pros to go after, stop the League of Villains, and save Bakugo. And then you're introduced to All For One, this character that you've been hinted at for the entire show, that he's the big, bad mastermind. He is the real ultimate villain of this show, not Shigaraki. Shigaraki was just a pawn of All For One. Then you introduce to this villain, and you get this whole like scene where they kind of you feel like they capture all the villains. You got Kamui Woods there, who's like holding all the villains captured. It's like they won, and then they all get teleported to that one little bit, and All For One walks out of the shadows, and then you get to episode 49. There's no string of words in the entire English language that could articulate how masterful this episode is. Episode 49 of My Hero Academia is extraordinary. It's so far from extraordinary. I can't even. This is the barrier that we were talking about this entire fucking episode. Episode 49 literally goes into the fucking stratosphere. I cannot believe every single second, every single frame of this episode, episode 49, One for All, is masterful. Every single one. You get this huge fight between All Might and All For One. The One for All and All For One colliding, going at each other. Everything about this fight is so awesome. And then of course you get the whole thing where, the whole time you've been built up that All Might is, he's dying. He's the symbol of peace, but he is starting to fade away. He needs to retire. It's been too long. He's been the number one hero for too long. And you get this fight between him and All For One, and throughout this whole entire fight, it is literally just jaw-dropping action. And then you get the whole reveal when All For One reveals to the world what All Might really is, and the smoke clears, and he's just this, and he goes into he's in the power down form, and the entire world sees what All Might really is. And you get that whole reveal with him. And then when he goes back and he turns back into his full power, and you get this huge speech with him, and he's fighting fucking All For One, and then All For One gets this massive fist, and then the real fight starts happening, and there's fucking buildings blowing up everywhere. And then once you think All Might has been defeated by All For One, and you think this is going to be how the season concludes with All For One actually killing All Might scans back up. His core goes like all crazy. And he's like half powered up and half all scrawny still. And he just says that fucking awesome line, "United States of Smash!" And this huge villain who you've literally been building up the entire fucking show is defeated. The fucking second episode he shows up, and it is flawless. The way he just fucking punches him into the ground, it zooms out, there's just fucking smoke and explosions everywhere, and then it cuts to the little fire of the fire that is All Might and the symbol of peace as it just fades away, and he just points at the TV. And now it's your turn. It turns to Deku. Oh my god, I got no words, dude. Episode 49 is the greatest episode I have ever seen of any anime, period. The action is mind-blowing. And everything about the fight between All Might and All For One. The fact that we are literally introduced to the show's biggest villain, the mastermind of My Hero Academia. And he's literally beaten in the second episode, but it feels like it was so perfect and you would not change anything about it. I cannot believe it. Episode 49 does things that I never thought were even possible. That it is so extraordinary. I've said my piece. I'm just going to be repeating myself at this point. I've said everything I need to be said about episode 49 and the entire first half of season 3. This first half of season 3 on its own is the number one of this list. However, we do get the provisional license arc. Now, I will admit this is not my favorite arc of the show. I think this arc is fine. I don't have any issue with it, the provisional license arc. It's not bad by any means. I do like quite a few moments in it. I like the moment when the fucking white bitch cunts are in that building, and they lock in Momo and Jiro and a couple others in that little room, and they're like trying to like freeze them in there so they can take them out of the fight, and then Momo like kind of totally outplays them. I like that moment a lot. I like the whole bit where they're like saving people in the fake city explosion. I like that whole thing as well. I do not have any real issue with the provisional license arc, but it's certainly a massive, and I mean a massive step down from the first half of season 3. But episode 60, the fight between Deku and Bakugo, for me, makes the entire arc completely worth it. Like 100%. That is my second favorite episode of the entire show. Well, oh my god, this show has so many damn great episodes, I can't even pick. It's like Shigaraki's origin story, All for One, One for All, and Deku versus Bakugo. They're all basically like, they're so close, although like, definitely One for All is definitely my favorite. But those two, like Shigaraki's origin story and Deku versus Bakugo, those are definitely competing for the second spot. But that fight, Deku versus Bakugo, holy shit, that fucking stuff was so amazing. Like, that was like coming slightly to the point of actually reaching the greatness that was the All for One versus All Might fight. Not quite reaching it, not even really getting there at all. That fight is literally mind-blowing. That fight is literally a landmark of animation, and I'll die on that hill. But Deku versus Bakugo, that shit slapped. I'm just gonna say it. And that's how we end season 3. I really don't think there's any competition whatsoever. If you tell me that you think season 3 is not number 1 of this show, I'm gonna need some fucking cold, hard reasoning. I'm gonna need you to fucking write that shit out like the Declaration of Independence and tell me why. Because literally, the entire first half is flawless anime. Flawless anime. And then you get the provisional license arc, which admittedly is not that great. And then it ends with that fight with Deku and Bakugo, which almost levels up to the greatest of the first half. If you don't think that's the best season of My Hero Academia, I'm gonna need you to fucking reason it out for me so I can understand what the hell you're on. So, there you have it. I have said everything I want to say. That is my ranking of all 5 current seasons of My Hero Academia. Maybe we'll do this again when season 6 comes out. I cannot wait for season 6. Obviously, I am in love with this show. This is officially one of my favorite animes of all time. I cannot believe I ever hated this show. I ever talked so much shit on this show after only watching like the first little bit of it. Seriously, I'm ashamed of myself for that. I adore this fucking show. You can call me a My Hero Academia fan. I love this show, and that is my ranking of all 5 of the seasons that are currently available. So there you have it, everybody. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you agree with my ranking? Do you not agree with it? Hey, if you don't agree, leave them in the comments. I'd love to talk some stuff with you. Tell me your favorite, tell me who your favorite My Hero Academia character is. I want to just have some conversations, because I fucking love this show, man. I love it. So there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And this is DK Guillotine, signing out. Plus Ultra!